who are prioritizing the son's success, often at this point defined by school grades and whether they're doing their schoolwork. You have a boy who cares about his happiness, which can vary depending on the boy and what brings him happiness. You have boys who are wired. They want to contribute. They want to make a difference in the world. And they have been in classrooms for 10 plus years with people telling them, sit down, shut up, do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
And then people wonder why they're unmotivated and upset.
And had a pandemic. And there you go. It's a mess.
Yeah. So, we our primary message to boys, unfortunately, is often sit in your seat, stay in your chair, pay attention, work as hard as you possibly can so that you're going to get perhaps one of the existentially vacuous jobs that is life's reward. If we're battling this when kids are age 17, okay, that's one thing, because then they're kind of at one of those critical forks in the road about what am I going to major in college, and am I going to go to college, and all those kinds of things. But we ought to be looking at those questions at a much younger age, because I think kids are ready to engage those things. Now, not every child is at the same point. I can recall that at 8 years old, I went to Staples and made my own son a little nameplate to kind of wear when he came to help me in the office, and I made a little job title that said creativity specialist, and then gave him a small budget to go buy some toys for the waiting room of my office that would be appropriate to girls and boys. So, really loved the kind of idea of being in charge of that budget, of making these kind of executive decisions. So the jobs are not always chores, right? One of the critical distinctions that we have to make is there's a difference between what I call purposeful work and a chore. We all do chores to help make our families run, to keep our households going, our classrooms going. It's appropriate and good that we contribute to those things. But when you do some type of purposeful work, you're taking on some type of challenge that speaks to your personal self. That's an expression of your abilities and your interests. And so it really kind of brings that into the fore. And that's the kind of thing that we should be looking for. What kinds of things can we give kids, even at a relatively young age, where they have some decision-making capability and where they are able to kind of exercise, a sense of their own judgment and preferences, those kinds of things.
We see this in our own lives. That distinction you made is why I am excited about and eager to jump online and record this podcast with you and Janet. And I am just sort of overlooking the dirt and the dirty dishes in my kitchen at the moment. That is a chore. That is not an expression of my purpose in the world. And it's not the best use of my talents, frankly, either.
Well, I think that's right. You don't do a podcast like this if you're not called by a sense of purpose to really talk about something important. And I'm fortunate in that I feel the same way, about my work. And it's interesting when we talk about this because, when you talk to boys about the kinds of things that they might like to do when they're an adult, one of the occupations that comes up very frequently, which we might not be surprised by, is that of being a teacher. And why is it that boys so often talk about wanting to be teachers? And I think it's because that a lot of kids feel the sense of affection and acknowledgement and care that is present in a school, and it makes them feel very good. And they feel like, well, this is kind of like a universe that I could exist in. I like being here, and I like the vibe that's kind of in the air when I'm in my school, and I would want to be a part of something like this. But remember that they also have other references for what work is like for people. So they're comparing these things, right? They're saying, hey, not everybody feels like this about work.
So I feel like we're kind of like up in the sky and lofty notions, which are very, very important. But I'm thinking about the moms that I talk to that can't get their boys to